What's up, guys? Today we're on Bullock Pen, and today I'm going to show you a strategy on how to use your fish finder. Stay tuned. You're probably wondering what I mean by strategy. So I'm not going to talk about the settings. I'm not going to talk about how to install the unit or your transducer. What I'm going to talk about today is once you have it set up, once you have it on your boat and it's ready to go, what then? How do you use this thing? How do you make it find fish for you? How do you find cover and structure the things that hold fish? Now, I did a bunch of searches on YouTube when I was trying to learn how to use a fish finder, and I never did find any real useful information as far as like how to graph or how to have a strategy for graphing and breaking down a lake. Everything talked about, settings or described what you were seeing, like, is this a rock, is this a tree, how do you find fish, etc., stuff like that. What I'm talking about is, what do you actually do? What is your plan of attack? How do you break down a lake using your fish finder? So one of the things I want to talk about is side imaging. Side imaging is your most valuable tool on your sonar. If you don't have it, your sonar is still very valuable. It just takes longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run down these banks at Bullock Pen, and I'm just going to graph around. I'm keeping a good distance away from the bank. I'm currently in 11 foot of water, and I'm just going to go around. I'm going to ignore the visible easy stuff, and I'm going to go around and graph the hard to find stuff, the stuff that everyone else is missing. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a boat out in front of me, about 100 or so yards. Guess what they're doing? They're flipping and pitching the grass line. Easy stuff, obvious stuff, and everyone else is doing it. So in this case, we're going to run past this point. We're going to just kind of idle right past it, right on through it. You can already see my track where I came through, and I kind of I'm doing a U-turn. I'm going to go right past it again. So this is a big point that sticks out on this lake, reaches out into the main channel. Two creeks are coming together, creating this point. And if you were looking at the bank, you can tell that this is a rocky point. There's big chunk rocks, 50, 60 pound rocks, just kind of all over the place. I mean, it's super obvious stuff. So a lot of people fish the bank here. What you're not seeing, so if I switch on back to my side imaging, you have all kinds of deep rock. If you look on the right side there, you can see all kinds of chunk rocks sticking out. We're in 16 foot of water, so we have rock all the way out here. We have balls of bait. You can see them on the left kind of floating around. We have balls of bait, out in this deeper water, just, out on this rock. You got, it looks like crappie and some other bait out here. But there's all kinds of, rock piles and a good amount of rock out here that no one is even touching. They're just skipping over it because their boat is sitting on top of it while they cast over at the bank. As we continue idling down this rocky point, you begin to see the good stuff. On the right hand side there, that is a rocky bank that meets brush piles, and that real long solid shadow that you see right there, that is a standing piece of timber. It's either like some type of pole or some type of old tree that was standing there at one point that they had cut down and set up like that. Here we go. Now we're going into another little rock pile. We're in 6 foot of water. Everyone else is fishing way up here on the bank, and we got all this good chunk rock all the way out here, in 6, 7, 8 foot of water that everyone else is missing. That's good stuff, especially on extremely high pressured lakes. Here's a stretch of bank that's pretty unremarkable. Most people would go straight to that point on the right side there and fish that. Not much going on here, it looks like, just a long stretch. But then when you switch over to on side imaging, You can see there was a tree we just missed. We got all kinds of laydowns in the water that you can't see. We're in 16 foot of water. We got brush piles and stumps. You know, this is an old, basically the edge of a creek, right where the trees grew right up to the creek, and they knock them all down, and then they flood the lake, and there's a stump or some type of brush pile. There's no visible sign that there was anything over there. You know, you see the water level and you just assume that's all there is. But there's usually a lot of hidden stuff in every lake. You just got to know how to look for it. You got to kind of plan for it, and you got to spend the time to do it and look for it. One mistake that I always made was that I would go out and fish and hope to kind of find this stuff, and just hope to stumble across it on accident. There's a good brush pile right there. Single Christmas tree, it looks like. Big laydown right there. But I would come out and just kind of hope to find the things and kind of stumble across them. And honestly, that didn't... Look at that, there's some good fish right there. Hope you guys can see that. Dang, man, I might want to have to start fishing here in a little bit. All this fuzzy stuff right here in front of the bank, that's all the grass. There's a big grass line. We're coming up on this main point. One really interesting thing about this main point was this must have had a lot of trees growing on it before they flooded the lake. And just goofing off coming through here, you know, in my Hobie kayak and graphing, I had discovered that this whole area is a stump field where they had basically cut down all the trees, left a bunch of stumps, and it's all in, you know, fairly deeper water. You got a stump there. I have no idea what that is. You got a stump there, stump there, stump there, stump there, stump there. I mean, we're in 8-9 foot of water, give or take, and we're in a stump field, you know, and they're only 2-3 foot off the bottom. No one knows these are here. I've never seen anyone fish these. Look at that. You got a sunken kayak or canoe, some tires, and then you got some good fish returns right there over top of it. And then when I switch back over there, look at that, you got a bait ball, you got some nice returns. Alright, so what is my strategy? I just idled through a really good looking area. We saw fish, we saw cover, you know, we saw a lot of good looking activity. So what I'm gonna do is I turn my motor off. I idled away from the area a little bit. I turned my motor off. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump up front, I'm gonna drop my trolling motor, and I'm gonna go back to that area where we saw them fish, and I'm gonna work that area real thoroughly. That is what I'm talking about, guys. This area just looked too good. I threw the top water and he just blew up on it. That was awesome. Yeah, a little 1.5 pounds for who cares? It's fun. So where do these units excel at? These units, Humminbird, Garmin, I'm not talking about the live scope or anything like that. I'm just talking about your basic sonar units with your side imaging or your traditional 2D or your down imaging. They excel by looking for structure and cover. You know, like I showed you earlier in the video, finding that rock, finding those sunken trees. I think a lot of people get caught up trying to find fish. They call them fish finders, but they're actually sonars. They do show a lot of bait fish though. There's a lot of that. That's easy to find. But your game fish, they can be tricky to find. Smaller the lake, the easier it is to use your unit to find specifically fish. If you fish a lot of panfish, you know, when they spawn, the bluegill beds are super easy to find. So, in that sense, it's a fish finder. But for the most part, it's a cover finder. To me, they make fishing way more fun. I know a lot of people hate them or want them banned. But I think it's fun to get out and kind of look around and see what's under the water. I found boats, airplanes, cars, all kinds of weird stuff in the water that shouldn't be. There's a lot more tires in my lakes than there should be also. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it teaches you something or opens your eyes on how to do certain things a certain way. If you like the video, give it a like, give me a sub. My last video about sonars got 15,000 views, but I only have like 130 subscribers. So you know, subscribe it up, man. Like, let's get me going. I'd like to come out with some more content. I just really don't know what to release and what people want to see other than fish finder stuff. And but you guys have a good one. I'll talk to you later. It's been John Flint Fishing.